Hey guys, Brian here. Welcome back to Outside the Shop. Working in my house today, as some of you probably experienced with the winter chill that came through here last week. Had a pipe freeze and bust, so get to repair that. But I wasn't going to film any of this until I got into it, and I was like, well, maybe this will help somebody out. Because this is a prime example of how not to build your house. So, of course, when this house was built, it didn't have any plumbing, so this has been added after the fact. Sometime in the 1960s, this was remodeled. Where I'm sitting was actually a porch, but they closed in the porch and turned it into a bathroom. So, all this plumbing was added. This is the exterior wall, which didn't exist. This would have been like porch railing here in the 1830s. But what they did here that caused the problem was apparently they put in the plumbing and then they put in the insulation. So they had the pipes against the exterior wall, which is boards with, it's got like an asphalt, probably just tar paper kind of house wrap, whatever they would have had in the 1960s as far as house wrap goes, because there's aluminum siding on the outside of that. So we've got a layer of aluminum siding, some tar paper, silver reflective air barrier type, I guess you would say, something or another, and boards with about a 1/4 inch gap in between them. Must have been wet when they nailed them on. And the copper pipe right against those boards. Then the insulation is on the inside, so it's keeping any heat from in the house, keeping the pipes from freezing. It's kind of basically like putting the pipes on the outside of the house, since they're on the outside of the insulation against the wall. So with the -30 wind chill we had blowing through here, there was enough air penetration that it froze this pipe. In the past, that had a problem with this other side, and because they've got little dog legs for water hammer, which doesn't actually work, because over time they just wind up, the air gets entrained in the water and it's just a standpipe of water. But I had eliminated it on the cold water side from when it had froze and busted previously, and that side was still flowing free, but the hot water side, it still had the dog leg on it, and this time the dog leg froze and blew out of it. So I'm going to go in here and take it off, but so I don't have to come back again, hopefully in my lifetime, and deal with this. What I've decided to do is I'm going to have to pull this whole drywall panel down and move the pipes from out against the wall to in against the interior wall and put the insulation behind them, and then I should never have to deal with any frozen pipes again here. This is a really bad setup. You should never do like that. Don't think I'll probably film much as far as the actual doing of this, because you won't be able to see anything except my back, and this is a limited area for me to work. Plus, it's going to look really bad when I get done with it, until it gets all taped back up, mudded back up, but that won't be today. So just a tip from me to you about if you're doing any plumbing work or doing anything in your house and you have something like this, be sure that your pipes are to the warm side of your house and not outside the insulation, or you'll be here doing something like this at some point. Let's in here for a closer look at bad practice. So you can see they literally had the pipe nailed to the outside wall and behind the insulation, both of them. So this was a situation destined to fail. There's the standpipe blown out. So obviously it was full of water, or wouldn't have had the ability to push that cap off. If it had air in there, it would have just compressed. But obviously there was no air. Unless you're going to drain your system down every so often so the air can refill in here. It's only a matter of time before this pipe winds up being absorbed. It's a good idea, just doesn't work all that well. But we're just going to do away with it. I didn't have any water hammer problems on this other one over here that I had done away with in the past. So that's the way it's going to be. I'll just take this T out and put it in straight. Move these pipes to the inside of the insulation. And maybe I'll never be here again in my lifetime. Well, that's more how it suits me. The pipes are to the inside of the insulation instead of against the outside wall now. So all the cracks are caulked shut to reduce any wind infiltration. And got my rock wool in there. Just I had to do it in small sections because wrestling it behind that pipe, it's really hard to do. It's packed in there pretty tight against the wall up through there. And I've run this up through the ceiling as far as I can get it. There's about a foot long piece of insulation over there shoved on up in the wall as far as it would go. So I believe probably goes till it hits the floor of the second story above. This is a drop ceiling in here, more or less, where they ran the plumbing underneath of the porch ceiling. So there's a 2x4 and then like a 2-inch gap for the plumbing, and then the old ceiling that was the bottom of the floor joist for the second story porch. So now I got to put all this drywall back. Caulked around those wires going out to the AC units. There was a lot of wind coming in around them too. So sealed them up going out to the electrical boxes. And I got pressure on the water pipe right now. Obviously that toilet valve's still leaking. It won't close off all the way. Needs repacked. Was just going to put some new valves on, but all they had at Lowe's was cheap garbage. So I figure I'll keep these ones from the 60s. They look a lot better made. Even if they might leak, I can always get them to seal up with a little silicone if I have to. And ran out of silicone to finish filling the hole over there around the pipe. So I'll get that filled up and get the other piece of insulation in and get the rest of these spots done. I shouldn't have to look at this again in my lifetime, hopefully. So, not the most beautiful copper brazing job ever, but it appears to be doing the job. It's not leaking anyway. So, and I've cleaned all the flux off everything, so hopefully won't be any corrosion later on. And if only I'd had the camera running, y'all would love that. I turned the water back off to try to give that valve some attention and decided I'd bleed it off. So just barely cracked it open. And here's where it shot to, all the way to the ceiling. Sprayed everything. So got good water pressure. Well, disaster averted, I suppose. Got it all back together. I gotta finish mudding and sanding it. But the main thing is that I got water. And no leaks. So sorry, no machining content this week. It was spent pretty much redoing all this. My time outside of work was used putting this bathroom back together so I could get hot water back in here and the other bathroom that this feeds. Fortunately, I got another bathroom that I could use, so I wasn't out of hot water that I could use during the time, but I got it all fixed up and back ready to go. So I guess that's one more that ain't good in the books. Hopefully you learned a little something about plumbing and how to do it the wrong way and how to do it the right way. So if you live in a cold climate, this could definitely save your butt at some point. If you are building a house or have somebody building it and you see them putting the pipes behind the insulation, you know it's not a good idea. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll catch y'all later.